Welcome to Scofield Farm. Have you ever wondered what kind of homesteading tasks are done in the wintertime when it is cold and stormy outside? So many. Up here in Northern California, outside the second sunniest city in the US, we are able to have an outside winter garden, but it is a lot lower maintenance, and we spend a lot of our time working on homesteading tasks indoors that we weren't able to keep up with during the warm months of summer and busy months of fall. Whether it's baking and cooking, or preserving and using the harvests of earlier seasons, we have more than enough to keep us busy on the days that we are indoors. Today I want to share with you preserving our bountiful garlic harvest and a few other things we're working on indoors during these colder months. Garlic is one of my very favorite things to grow. This past year, we harvested over 250 heads of garlic. We love to save our own seed from them to grow our next year's garlic. We share them with family and friends. We sell or trade locally some extras. We use a ton fresh. And then preserve what we can't use to grind to be the freshest garlic powder you have ever tasted. I never was a fan of garlic powder until I made my own. Around January, part of our fresh garlic from the summer before's harvest will either start drying out on its own or sprouting. That's okay. Those can be sliced and placed on dehydrators to dry and save, and then we will grind the dried garlic slices as needed to make garlic powder, ensuring it retains as much of its fresh, powerful flavor as possible. That is why we don't grind it all at once, because we want to retain the oils and the flavor. I'm sure there's faster ways to peel and slice and dry the garlic, but this is a soothing task to me that I will do while my family watches a movie, or while I listen to a podcast or watch a YouTube gardening or homesteading video. I actually enjoy the busy work with my hands on days that I cannot get outside. We grew both hardneck and softneck garlic, and ironically, the softneck, which is supposed to last longer, is usually my first one to sprout, and my hardneck seems to last fresh a little longer. So I like to work on preserving the softneck garlic first. You can see right here where the garlic's sprouting. If this was a clove that I had planted to regrow, where this sprout comes up is out of the pointy side. And that side would be side up when I planted. The part where the roots came out would be the part going down when I plant. You can see how plants want to grow and reproduce. When we grow food, we are just partnering with what they already want to do. I have lots of herbs and peppers and things I've grown that I will dehydrate and save in jars for use in the off-season when we don't have access to the fresh, which is always my first choice. I have dried rosemary from our rosemary bush outside. I like to chop and dehydrate and grind my extra chives to make a chive powder that I use in place of onion powder when I cook. The smell is fantastic. I wish I could have you smell it through the screen. I keep the dried sliced garlic in jars until I grind it in small batches so I can keep the flavor as potent and fresh as possible. I will dry my extras of basils, and some, like the lime basil or Tulsi basil or Thai basil, I love to use as teas at night before bed. We have so many chives in our garden. This year I dried more than usual, and I gifted little jars of chive powder to family as Christmas gifts. garden is such a blessing, but sometimes its abundance can be overwhelming to preserve. In the middle of the growing and planting and weeding and harvesting, I love that I can take some time during the mostly off season to work on preserving the abundance and to just reflect on how kind God has been to bless what we put our hands to and to give us this wonderful homegrown food to feed our family. Now, my dehydrator is a Nesco. It's not the most expensive dehydrator, nor am I an affiliate, but it is well rated for the price point, and it's the second of the same brand that we have owned. I saved the round trays from the first one that I wore out, and now I have extra trays to use for my high volume dehydrating needs, like all of my chives. The one thing I prefer about my Nesco is that it can have a time and temperature gauge that I adjust depending on what I'm dehydrating, and so I can do lower temps all the way down to 90 degrees for tender herbs. The one I was gifted as just a used dehydrator, it does not have a timer or temperature gauge, so it can get rather hot. Now I use a coffee grinder, which is actually just a rebranded herb grinder to make all my powders. I don't have a favorite brand. I just got this one at Target, but they're sold everywhere and they're very reasonable. I don't use it for coffee. I literally only use it for my dried abundance from my garden. Another thing we do in the winter is a lot of puzzle making. It is a great way to use my brain and relax and bond as a family. I don't usually have time for this during the very busy months of summer and fall. Right before Christmas, I started more vanilla extract because we completely ran out. It was way too late to use. It should sit at least 6 months. So I had to get some from my cousin for my own baking. But it is so easy to buy a bottle of vodka and some organic vanilla beans, slice them up the middle, and put them into the vodka. I'll shake or swirl it every few days, and then I let it just sit in a cupboard or a shelf until it's ready. You can use other alcohols to do this, but I've always used vodka and enjoyed the results. It is also gluten-free. I also love to bake in the winter when it's cold outside. These are a traditional Norwegian cookie, my grandma's favorite, called Krumkakes. I may be saying it wrong. They are my favorite Christmas cookie, and they have a light flavor of cardamom. I have a whole video with the recipe and how I make them that I will link in the description below. I make these at least once a year, part for my grandma and part just because I love them. Now this is the vanilla extract just 1 week after I started it. You can see how the color is already changing. Imagine how rich it will be in 6 months to a year from now. I still have tomatoes that I harvested green before frost that are changing color on the counter, and sweet potatoes I just harvested, and a couple potatoes that are already sprouting that I think I'm just gonna go ahead and replant at this point. Sometimes I order 40 pounds of onions from Azure Standard since we don't have a good cold storage system, and usually we use all our onions we grow before this time of year because they don't keep well. It is a great way to have onions for a very reasonable price, bought in bulk. I'm going to link to them below. And if you're a new customer and join with my link, you will help support our family in a little small way. I am waiting for our Luffa to slowly dry out. Last year, I harvested so early because of an early frost. Then I processed them while they were still green. This year, several were mature enough to dry out the rest of the way indoors, and processing is much easier. I will still link a video to how I processed them green and unripe last year in the description below because they made absolutely beautiful sponges. Even with a little more work, you can still get sponges from them, even when they're immature. We also had the blessing of lots of winter squash because we both grew them, and my cousin gifted us a lot of pumpkins she decorated with during the fall. We eat a lot of pumpkin and winter squash throughout the winter. We are so thankful for the bounty. Thank you for joining me today with some of our indoor homesteading tasks that we do in the wintertime and during storms. I hope this was inspiring to you as to what you can do when it's cold and rainy, or maybe snowy where you are, when it isn't enjoyable to be outdoors. I will see you in the next video.